My name is Gordon. I'm 22 years old, but this story happened when I was 10, and it takes place in Florida. Me, my 6-year-old brother, and parents were on our way to Disney World for the weekend. It was our first time driving there, and we got a bit lost. We had to leave in the afternoon, and it was quite a long drive from where we lived. And like I said, we got a bit lost. It was dark outside, and we had to drive through the country lanes, but it wasn't just dark. It was basically pitch black because there were no street lamps whatsoever. The country roads we were driving through were quite creepy. I know me and my brother were freaked out, and to be honest, I think my parents were too. We had been driving for a while and I had to pee very bad. I know we could pull over, but I really didn't want to because it was scary as hell out there. But unfortunately I couldn't hold it anymore, so I asked my dad to pull over. I got outside and I walked over to some nearby bushes, which led into a forest. It was pretty cold outside and I was shivering. Like I said, it was pitch black, but I could see a little bit because our car's headlights were on. I went to do my business when I heard a branch snap. I looked up and towards the woods, and I saw some kind of light. It was a lantern. I looked closer and it was floating up, and then I saw it wasn't floating. Someone was picking it up, and the lantern light revealed a face I would never forget. It was a man who looked to be in his late 40s. He had a gray beard, and he was smiling with his eyes wide open. He had crooked yellow teeth. I stood there in shock with tears in my eyes. He then motioned with his finger for me to come toward him. I pulled up my pants and ran back to my car. My mom said to me, "Are you okay, sweetie?" I just smiled and said yeah, and we continued driving. I didn't say anything to anyone about what I saw, and I still had to pee, but what was on my mind was that man I just saw. We finally arrived and I was able to use the bathroom. Me and my brother were, and still are close, so that night while we were laying in our beds, I told him what I saw, and to my surprise he didn't seem that freaked out when I told him. He looked down with a worried look on his face. Then he told me something he saw in the car while we were pulled over. He was looking outside of his window, which were farm fields. He said he saw what looked to be a family of 4 standing in the middle of a field, who were also holding lanterns. He then asked our mom who were those people, and her response was, "What people? There's no one out there." And at that point, that's when I got back in the car. That night, and many nights after, me and my brother have discussed what we saw, and we didn't know if it was real or not, or our imagination. I personally still believe to this day what I saw was real. This story still haunts me and gives me chills every time I think of it. What do you think? When I was in high school, about 10 years ago, I was home alone while my mom went to pick up my brother. And before my mom left, she told me to bring the dogs in. Now we had 2 beagles, one that was friendly but barked loud, and an older one that we had gotten from a shelter that was extremely protective and was not afraid to show his teeth. I usually ignored her and left them outside for a bit. I was in the back part of the house and was on a computer when I heard a noise. I walked to our front room and saw a young guy near the front door looking inside my house. I stood slightly out of sight and saw him walk back and forth between our window and then back to the door. And then he tried opening the door. Then he literally threw himself against the door. Immediately my blood went cold and I rushed to the back door and quietly yelled for the dogs to come in. They ran in and I herded them to the front room. Then I saw the mailbox slot open. I saw his eyes. He was looking right at me. Right away, my older beagle got on the defense and growled. It was more like, "I'm gonna bite you" type of growl, while the other one barked. I got my phone and called my mom and begged her to come back home, in which she did with my brother. They looked around and saw no other signs of entry. I triple check every door now, and even though those 2 dogs have passed away, I keep our current dog near me when I'm home alone. That was one of the scariest experiences I ever had in my life. I'm a 21-year-old woman, and when I was 5 years old, I could remember a situation happening. Then when I was a little older, I figured out that it could have gone very bad. My street was full of kids and our parents all knew each other. Every weekend, someone would have a sleepover. One Friday night, we all begged our parents to stay the night at Lisa's house. She was 6 years old at the time and lived 2 houses down from me. We were all outside, and once our parents said yes, we all went to our houses, bathed, grabbed blankets, and went to Lisa's house. After our parents dropped us off, Lisa's mother made everyone popcorn while we watched movies in Lisa's bedroom. We played and watched TV for hours. Then we all fell asleep. In the middle of the night, I woke up to Lisa's bedroom door opening while all of us girls were sleeping on the floor on top of blankets. When I turned toward the light that was outside of the open door, I saw Lisa's dad in the doorway looking at us. In my 5-year-old mind, I thought he was just checking on us, so I went back to sleep. After being asleep for a bit, I wake up again, and it's her door opening. It's her dad again. He's standing in the doorway looking at us with a camera. I thought it was weird, because he had his shirt off also. I didn't let him know that I was awoke. When he walked away from the door, I waited a few minutes and ran home. I knocked on my big sister's window, which was downstairs, and she let me in. I told my parents, and they never let me back over there again. A few years later, Lisa's father was arrested for trying to kidnap a little girl who was outside riding her bike near her house. Every time I think of that night at Lisa's house and what he was caught for, I cringe because who knows what he was thinking and what he wanted to do. I'm glad he got caught and no other kids got hurt.
Robin, this next story, every parent with little kids has to watch this.
You got that right, George.
A 7-year-old left alone for just a moment. Her mother was just a couple of aisles over in Walmart, and she was almost abducted. ABC's Youngji Denise joins us live from Atlanta this morning, and you heard what George said. Parents are going to be watching this with great interest.
It happened so fast. You can see the man grab 7-year-old Brittany Baxter, trying to carry her out of the Walmart toy aisle.
He just grabbed me.
It was just about 24 hours ago when Brittany, out sick from school, was shopping with her mom, who stepped away to grab some fruit, leaving her daughter to play in the toy aisle. That's when store cameras captured this man snatching Brittany, but the second grader put up a fight.
I was screaming and kicking him, trying to get away. He put his hand over my mouth.
Police say this is security video of a kidnapping suspect in action. A woman walked by a 4-year-old boy, just picked him up and carried him out of a McDonald's restaurant. Fortunately, she didn't get very far.
A man grabbing a 13-year-old girl in Florida, dragging her through a store, her mother fighting back, as you can see. ABC's Eva Pilgrim is here with more on those terrifying moments. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Robin. This morning, that Florida mom is being credited for saving her daughter as a stranger tried to take her from a store. Video showing the mom doing everything possible to keep the would-be kidnapper from getting her 13-year-old.